Martin O'Malley.
Thanks very, very much. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Ryan Tuberty, thank you very, very much, and thank you for that marvelous book. I've enjoyed every single page, and I'm sure it will find its way to the Christmas trees of many an Irish-American father in the years ahead. Adonai Osla, I want to thank Secretary General Cooney. I want to thank all of the members who are here, and the deputies and the senators, and also the distinguished members of the press, and Ambassador Rooney, and Mrs. Rooney, Ambassador Jean Kennedy Smith, and Congressman Patrick Kennedy, and Ambassador Collins, of late from America, and on to other things, and all the members of the Kennedy family, and the women and men who form the core of Ireland, and the young people who hold its future. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the humbling honor of being able to speak with you today here in this place. When John F. Kennedy came here 50 years ago, he shook this country's soul out. He drove around in an open-top car. He addressed the Irish people with an open heart. He even defied the rain. He asked his listeners to keep a sense of hope alive in the expectation, in the belief that it would triumph. Oppression covered half the world, and a hunger gnawed at so many places. Nuclear weapons had placed the very existence of human life on this planet in great jeopardy. The world's climate had begun to cough. And yet, there is always a yet. President Kennedy offered words of hope and optimism. He had recently offered the world a new strategy for peace, a peace that could save human life on this planet from the threat of nuclear annihilation. At American University in Washington, he said, "Our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet, breathe the same air, and cherish our children's future." At the Berlin Wall, he spoke of peace with freedom. And here in Dublin, he talked of an Irish destiny, a vision of an Ireland that would be not merely a peaceful island in a sea of troubles, but a maker and a shaper of world peace. President Kennedy did not live to see the Berlin Wall fall, but he believed that it would. He would not see his country land a man on the moon, but he believed that it could. He did not see the internet and advances in technology that would bring our world even more closely together, but he believed that such things could be achieved. His brief visit to Ireland connected our countries vividly, connected us vitally, connected us spiritually. From New Ross to Hyannis, from the Oireachtas to the White House, John F. Kennedy planted a vision that would link us not only to the past, but to the deep, deep roots of the future. And the harvest of that faith remains here today, more vibrant now than ever. America, Ireland, the world we see from both sides of the Atlantic is a continuous circle of humanity, a circle broken only by the walls we build between and the darkness our compassion has yet to overcome. That infamous wall in Berlin has fallen. But still today, there are many walls of conflict, walls of fear, walls that blind us to the needs of others, walls that we foolishly imagine separate our fate from the fate of the other living systems of this planet, walls that must be overcome by Ireland and America together for the future of our shared humanity. For centuries, we've been word-linked, haven't we? We've been freedom-linked. We've been linked by our imaginations. We've been linked by our histories. We are linked by the sacrifices of those who have gone before us. There are no two countries more bound to each other. There are no two countries more grounded in the fact of their reaching out to the world. Our shared experience is that we share our experience of democracy, of generosity, of bravery, of hope. And perhaps nowhere in its recent history has Ireland been stronger than as a maker and shaper of peace. Peace. We in America look to it and are thankful for it. We know that we can always learn from it. In Colombia, they can take great inspiration from it. In the holy grounds of the Middle East, in all areas of conflict around the world. Here in Ireland, the peace process is one of our century's great breakthroughs, one to be admired, emulated, nurtured. While the United States played an important and helpful role, the drive for that peace came from the hard-working people of this island who saw the necessity of change. You brought peace to life. You raised it up from the ground. You cultivated it. What has been achieved through the patient work of so many is something that most thought was impossible. And yet you've dissolved the walls of old hatreds and made a greater room for your children's future. Peace, a process, Kennedy called it, an idea we must continue to wage. To be Irish, to be American, to be human, is to know that every challenge, however great, holds the seed of opportunity. And it has been suggested by some that a small country can do little in a world that seems increasingly dominated by the very large few. But the reality is that Ireland is often now the forerunner of truly democratic aspirations and realizations. This is the Irish example that President Kennedy celebrated and extolled during that visit here. That a nation and a people need not be large in size or powerful in force of arms in order to influence the conscience of the world. Look at what Ireland has done over the years. Pivotal in the disarmament debates at the United Nations. In the European Parliament and beyond, Ireland has stood up for the cause of civil rights, especially on behalf of women and minorities. Ireland has sent more help than other countries, both in terms of money and compassionate hands, to troubled areas of the world to alleviate great suffering. Ireland has contributed troops to peacekeeping missions across the globe: Central America, the former Yugoslavia, Cambodia, Liberia, the Middle East, East Timor, the UN headquarters on the East River. Senior Ireland Defense Force officers have commanded UN operations in Cyprus, along the Syrian-Israeli border, in Lebanon, in Liberia, along the border with India and Pakistan. Yes, Ireland has been noble, Ireland has been generous, and Ireland has been brave. Ireland's impact is not measured only in currency, but in its cultural influence, its moral reach, and in the open hearts of its immigrants, and yes, its immigrants. What can a small nation do? What difference can one person make? Perhaps all the difference. Education, economic opportunity, security, life science, the development of artistic and literary voices, the dignity of every individual, the common good we share, the greater good we seek. Yes, our circle is unbroken, and our relationship must constantly be renewed for the greater service of our one human family and this one planet we call home. 50 years since, and 50 years forward. The supreme reality of our time, President Kennedy said, is our indivisibility as children of God and our common vulnerability on this planet. The threat of global thermonuclear war hung like a cloud over Kennedy's generation. Today, our planet once again finds itself in a grave crisis, and it's also of our own making. We've been able to slow the doomsday clock, but climate change marches on unabated. This is not just about icebergs melting or polar bears drowning, is it? The carbon content of the Earth's atmosphere is higher now than it's been at any time in 3 million years. Our industrial era legacy of burning fossil fuels for energy is the cause, and as the dominant species of this small planet, we are driving the Earth into uncharted territory. And what are the effects? Sea level rise measured in meters, severe weather events with hurricanes and tornadoes dwarfing anything in human memory, exacting massive destruction of property and huge losses of human life. The vast majority of the world's scientists predict an accelerated loss of biodiversity, whole species of animals and plants, droughts across the whole swaths of our planet, and great hungers of famine death in continental proportions. No nation, big or small, rich or poor, or fast developing, can escape the urgent responsibility of this moment. As a global community, we must turn the deep underwater of our collective imaginations into stronger collaborations, better innovations, and better choices. We must move from economies of global depletion to localized economies of renewal and regeneration. That is to say, innovations that figure out better ways to feed and fuel and heal this world. Sustainable innovation economies whose jobs cannot be offshored. And a country like Ireland, make no mistake about it, can become a leader in moving a larger world to care and to act. Together with a growing consensus in the United States and the will of other nations, we can focus our progress in science and technology. And you know what? Every positive step is needed. Renewable energy, solar power, geothermal, wind, wave, carbon capture, green design, net zero energy homes, smart grids. What we stand for is what we stand on. And our young people understand this reality even more clearly than we do. And hanging in the balance of this great global collaboration is the very future of life on our planet. Is this easy? Of course not. It's life and death hard. But out of difficulty comes great promise. The promise of a more secure world, a more plentiful and prosperous world, a healthier and more just world, a better world for our children and grandchildren. Adversity is not our enemy. Adversity is the catalyst of all human progress. Arresting climate change is a new frontier in our search for peace with freedom. And we have to go beyond the bare acceptance of today's brooding clouds of self-defeating pessimism. True optimism is brave. True optimism digs deeper. True optimism understands, in the words of the Irish poet John O'Donoghue, that darkness is the great canvas against which beauty becomes visible. A final thought by way of story. Thanks in part to President Kennedy's vision and the talented nation of people who he brought together to make his belief in space exploration a reality. We are now among the first human beings to actually be able to view this Earth from outer space. Recently, a Canadian-born astronaut, Chris Hadfield, spent 5 months as commander of the International Space Station. And as he floated above Ireland, strumming his guitar, he sent down satellite pictures of this country steeped in beauty against the dark ocean all around. And the images he took the world's breath away. Even from a distance of space, one could see what a gorgeous country Ireland is. And while he was circling above us, Chris Hadfield also tweeted about his daughter, Kristen, who was studying psychology in, of all places, Trinity College, Dublin. All of our stories are connected. As the future rolls on, the present grows larger, and our past becomes more vital. John F. Kennedy believed there would always be a springtime, no matter how long it might take to return. His visit here made visible and solidified a growing confidence in this new country of an ancient people, being an important actor on the international stage, an important catalyst in the ongoing heart work of humanity. Kennedy could intuit that we Irish and we Americans had an ocean between us, not to separate, but to allow. For all its depth and darkness, this is what the Atlantic does. It also joins us. We cannot afford to quarantine the better part of our desires on either side of the Atlantic. There's nothing wrong with the extravagance of aspiration when it is manifest in the right direction for mankind. There's nothing wrong with wanting things to be better when better is for everyone, not just ourselves, but the wider and further world, America and Ireland, the Irish diaspora, and the American dream of peace with freedom. They, together, have become a world power, a power potentially of the most far-reaching kind, a force for compassion and healing, for transforming our grief, our wounds, our loss, into a new tomorrow. For these things do not die. Our concern for the people of our one earth, our care for the well-being of the next generation, our love for one another. And in this powerful sense, and in the work we do for that new tomorrow, we will all be back in springtime.